Hey, Croc Nation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to your friends. Visit our website, crocvip.com. We would love to hear your feedback. Welcome to the Croc Podcast.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here is your host, Dr. E.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Tommy Anelli. I'm the president and founder of Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer. I am so delighted and humbled that you've joined us today. Today's podcast is very self-explanatory. If you have cancer and you're a survivor thriver, then you already know that cancer is a roller coaster. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight in your words, not in our words. The Croc podcast is basically for our survivor thrivers to try to make their survivorship journey smoother and their lives better, their quality of lives better, as well as up the care that you're receiving from your practitioners. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Angel Santana, from his podcast, Have Faith, Let It Begin, which is a very inspirationally based and motivational podcast, which is a perfect bookend to the Croc podcast. Angel, welcome to this beautiful, beautiful summer Sunday. How are you doing?
Everything is well. After going through a crazy things as parents do, children are sick, things break down. But you know what doesn't break down? Our heart and soul that we have here on Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer. If I may, got a little bit of marketing to do for us. Croc Nation, I want to make sure you're aware we are on a brand new format starting today. What does that mean? Well, you'll have to take a look at our YouTube channel because effective immediately, we're going to have video format now here at the Croc Podcast. And we want to thank those people from Riverside as we are now part of their family. And I would like to remind each and every one of you, you can now listen to our show when we decide to go live. We'll have a live format one day and you can do live chatting. So be on the lookout for what's coming up as the Croc Podcast gets right around the corner and home, right in your home territory.
Angel, I appreciate that. I hope that the video doesn't show us dancing in the beginning to the music.
Of course it's gonna. Come on.
Oh my gosh. Well, everyone's going to have to watch that then, because I have to tell you, two older, what would you say, weight challenged individuals dancing to techno pop. That's certainly a draw. That should go viral, actually.
Yeah.
But getting back to the point, Angel, getting into the podcast, summer is here. So let me tell you, everybody out there in the Croc Nation, we bring our own personal experiences to this podcast, as well as your personal experiences that you so wonderfully share with us to try to help your fellow survivor thrivers have a easier time of it. And when I look back in my childhood and I think about summer, there's a couple of things I think about too. In particular, I think about one at St. Gerard's, which was my parish and my little grammar school. Every June, the carnival would come to town, and the carnival would have cotton candy and sausage and peppers and all of these rides. And there would be a little roller coaster, a mini roller coaster that I would love. And it sort of fostered my love of roller coasters. And of course, growing up, as an Italian American, going to Coney Island with my grandparents and Nathan's and the big steeplechase park and that beautiful, beautiful wooden roller coaster. I can't tell you the love I've had of roller coasters. I even joined an organization called the American Coasters Association, it's called ACE, ACE, American Coaster Enthusiasts. And I would go and try roller coasters all around the country. And what a spectacular thrill that was, as well as at the Jersey Shore, trying every summer getting on those roller coasters. But now, as an oncologist, a radiation oncologist for over 35 years, there are many expressions and phrases that our survivor thrivers share with me. But probably the number one, or at least in the top five, is their description of cancer as a roller coaster. And just as you crest, and if you're a real coaster enthusiast, you don't scream or yell out of fear, but you raise your arms as high as you can, and you really try to get it to be on the first car. You want to be the first person, because that's the scariest. And that it shows you what kind of a brave and coaster enthusiast you are. And for us, that word is pleasurable. But for the survivor thriver, as I said, it's terrifying. And when I walk into the clinic and I walk and see our patients, their terror or their description of the roller coaster, starts with their diagnosis, the fear of death, and then it goes to their prognosis. Are they going to die? It goes into their treatments, into the side effects of their treatments, and then particularly when everything is all said and done, the testing or the surveillance afterwards. You go from a high of an elation as you get the good news that your cancer is still gone, and then you go to a low if your scan isn't very favorable, and then you have a few weeks to months where everything is good and you start to forget about your cancer survivorship, and then it's time for more blood work and another scan, and it sort of is this vicious cycle. And Angel, for two individuals who have not had that experience of being a survivor thriver, we can never adequately feel or define what it is that these patients go through. The experience of them feeling that they're on this really roller coaster from hell. So what I decided to do today was take excerpts from two wonderful survivor thrivers and share the cancer roller coaster analogy in their own words rather than into our own words. So we've never met these two individuals, but I do want to give them credit and I do want to recognize them. One, his name is John Dable, Dabell. So anybody want to go check his blog out, that would be great. And then the second one is Bonnie Annis, Annis. These are two bloggers that talk about survivorship issues. I would strongly recommend that you give them a look at on the internet. Angel, I want to just share something with you. I really have a connection with this guy John because on the top of his blog, he has, his name is John Dable, and then he says hope punk, grit spreader, and force multiplier. Doesn't that sound like something that I would like come up with? So
Absolutely.
a hope punk, so he's clinging on to hope, but he's still a punk. A grit spreader, that means you're a survivor thriver, so you know how to grit your teeth and bear unbearable things. And a force multiplier, meaning take that force of your survivorship and your power and try to spread it as we try to do on the podcast. So this guy John and I really probably have to have a cup of coffee. We'll have to find out where he is. And then on the bottom of his blog, he said, as he starts to talk about the ultimate roller coaster ride, strap yourself in and hang on for this ride. So this is all the words from John, and I'm gonna quote him directly because, like I said, cancer is a roller coaster in your own words, right? So cancer has often been described as a wild roller coaster ride of emotions with plenty of ups, downs, twists, turns, and jolts. It's all of those things and more. It's a whole theme park of chills, spills, and thrills. Although, to be fair, there aren't too many of the latter, meaning too many thrills. Scream if you want to go faster? No thanks. Forget amusement park. Think Bemusement Park instead. This is the type of roller coaster that includes plenty of side-to-side motion and being tossed around and then suddenly coming to a halt on a loop and leaving you and your life dangling upside down. Expect glitches and ride malfunctions like when the CT scanner stops working midway through a scan, as if the anxiety isn't enough already, as well as medical mishaps and the odd misdiagnoses here and there. Riding a Russian spacecraft has been called the ultimate roller coaster ride back to Earth, and to be honest, this probably brings us much closer to what it feels like when we talk about cancer. It feels like you are plummeting from space at a rate of 755 feet per second. This is how my mind felt after I woke up in high dependency after a 15-hour operation to remove my first cancer. Not that I have ever been inside that Russian spacecraft, but your thoughts are racing and you feel at the mercy of your surroundings. But not every day is a spacecraft experience. Some days it can be like playing Scrabble with all the vowels missing. Sometimes it's like Twister, others like Jenga, and the rest of the week it's snakes and ladders. On top of that, there are no more get out of jail free cards left. There is no way you can ever prepare for what it feels like to be told you have cancer. There is nothing that prepares you for treatment and the horrible side effects. And if, like me, you are told that your cancer is incurable, then nothing or no one can prepare you to absorb that message without turning into a bubbling wreck. This is a lived experience that you go through and you learn on the job. You take some hefty punches and you go through the mill and through the ringer time and time again. Your emotional well-being takes a hammering. It's easy to give up when it gets like this, but that's not an option. You see, there is no quit button. We turn up and we keep playing no matter how scary it gets. Brace for impact. This will not be a smooth landing. So that was from the words of John, and I have to tell you, very profound. The second experience that I want to share is from Bonnie Annis, as I said, and this is an article from 2019, and it's called Cancer, the Ultimate Emotional Roller Coaster Ride. So I'm going to actually not read it in its entirety, but just take some excerpts. But as I watched my husband and grandchildren laugh with glee as the ride began its ascent, I felt an uneasy sensation in the pit of my stomach. I was reminded of how very much a roller coaster ride resembles the emotional turmoil breast cancer can take on a person. As treatment began, the uphill climb turned into a fast-paced downward spiral full of twists and turns. My emotions were all over the place. One minute I was afraid, the next I was bewildered. Sometimes I'd cry uncontrollably, wondering if I was ever going to reach the end. Just as I started to figure things out, the cancer ride would dramatically shift to the right or to the left, almost flinging me from the car. Breast cancer, though similar to a roller coaster ride, was anything but fun. Never have I experienced anything so challenging. The ups and downs of treatment nearly took my breath away. Even today, almost 5 years after being diagnosed with cancer, it feels like I'm still on that roller coaster. As I go to routine appointments, I feel that coaster car carrying me quickly up, and those old familiar feelings return. Whenever I'm waiting for test results, it feels as though I'm zooming downhill at breakneck speed, about to be hurtled toward oblivion. Sometimes when things have settled down and I have no appointments or tests in sight, I can take a deep breath and enjoy the ride. And when I do, I can even throw my hands in the air, feel the rush of wind in my hair, and smile a little. For the person facing a long-term cancer ride, the emotional roller coaster of cancer can be filled with twists and turns, ups and downs, and side-to-side motions. It can be a very uncertain time, and one may wonder when or if the ride will ever end. And while these feelings are probably very common, sometimes it would be nice to have the ride come to a complete stop, allowing us to disembark and return to normal. Emotional stress comes along with the diagnosis of cancer, but when we can understand what to expect ahead of time, it makes the ride a little easier. If your doctor doesn't take the time to explain what's coming next, don't be afraid to ask. Asking might help you avoid the unexpected feelings of being out of control in your own life, and maybe, just maybe, you can find a way to grab hold and even shout out a little wee as your journey continues. Now, Angel, as I said, we cannot understand what it feels like to be a survivor thriver, to feel this roller coaster of despair and elation. But we can do something, and there is something we can contribute from our own words to this podcast. So when I was a young adult, I had never gone to Disney World when I was a kid, but I did take my kids when they were very young. And of course, the first place I headed to was a ride called Space Mountain. Now, my friends were telling me about Space Mountain forever and ever and ever. And unfortunately, I never rode it as a kid. And up now, I guess 30 years later or whatever, they must have bigger and badder roller coasters than Space Mountain. But what made Space Mountain really cool and unusual was it was a roller coaster in absolute blackness. There were no lights. You couldn't see anything. And all you did was you get strapped into this car, and then all of a sudden, off you go. And to Bonnie's point, what we can do, even though we can't understand this feeling of being on a roller coaster, what we as your doctors and your caregivers can do is we can be sort of like that space center. We could be NASA. We could be Houston. You could have a headphone on and we could be communicating to you while you begin your ascent on Space Mountain. We could say, okay, Bonnie, you're going to go up for about 30 seconds and then prepare for a little stop. And then all of a sudden, quickly, you're going to go straight down. And about 4 seconds after that, you're going to make a quick right. So prepare for that impact and that G-force. So we can actually prepare you. You're going to be on that roller coaster, but we can be on that roller coaster with you, guiding you through the ups and downs and the sideways and all that type of thing. So that is my analogy. So, for instance, if we were to break things down again using the space analogy, to lift off, to orbit, and to reentry. For your liftoff, this is where we could help you during your consultation when you first get your diagnosis of cancer. We could start developing a relationship with you so you feel comfortable. We can start opening a line of communication where it doesn't take an act of God to get in touch with your oncologist. We need to have you be able to get in touch with us seamlessly with one phone call without a 30-minute wait. We also have to be very clear about your staging and your prognosis and your test results, not just telling you them, but showing you them, showing your x-rays, telling you about your blood tests. And then, as I said, this is the part where as you're going up and 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 up, that roller coaster. Then we enter orbit. And now it's our job to get you through the treatments, and not only through your treatments, also through all the treatment related side effects that you're going to get. So as you crest that top of that roller coaster, now all of a sudden the coaster starts going down at breakneck speed. And now you have us in your ear telling you about what to expect with the treatments and what to expect after the treatments. Now you're down the roller coaster and you're heading to the right, and you're about to go back up again when we now have what's called reentry. So the reentry part is maybe the hardest part because you've gotten through, you've kicked your cancer's ass, you are a survivor, you have no cancer, you're in a remission, but in a week, you have to get an MRI of your brain, or you have to get a PET scan, or you have to get blood work, or you have to get a bone marrow biopsy. And then what will that show? Will that show that your small little respite, that small little break as your roller coaster gets to the top before it goes down, is that all going to leave you and now all of a sudden you're back on that roller coaster? Well, no, that's our job, is to get you through the scans, to tell you what our expectations are of the studies. And when we get the results, to tell you whether we're worried or not worried and why, and actually explain it to you. But not just explain it to you, also have a plan on how to manage whatever the results of that testing shows. And I think that if we do all of these things well, we can change the experience of your roller coaster from one of a terrifying Space Mountain experience in Disney World to one of a wonderful roller coaster ride at that famous wooden roller coaster at Coney Island. Angel Santana, your thoughts about the podcast?
You know, as somebody who is very scared of heights, I don't feel like I am anymore because of the description you provided us. I feel as if I'm at peace, because no matter how many times we can talk about the ups and downs, the twists and turns, and all the different types of things that we will encounter, nothing will prepare us for what these people are going to endure. Because let's be honest, we kind of know what's already coming when you're on the roller coaster. You're able to see the roller coaster and the twists and turns. Unfortunately, they don't. But describing what they go through is enough for me to know that I'm no longer afraid of heights, because I know that there's nothing to fear. Something that we have to consider for the future.
Beautiful. Thank you, Angel. In closing of this podcast, I just want to recognize again our two authors, John Dable and Bonnie Annis. And I want to just say thank you to them for helping put into words the analogy or the experience that our survivor thrivers have with their cancer journey as being on that roller coaster from hell. I think being able to use these excerpts to assist our survivor thrivers with words from some of their comrades in arms rather than from people who have not walked a step in your shoes, I think is very helpful. And I really want to encourage all of our survivor thrivers out in the Croc Nation to write your feelings down. Get yourself a journal book, start journaling. Start blogging, get yourself a website, put this stuff out here. I would have never met John and I would have never met Bonnie had I not thought about this podcast and then just basically did a quick Google search and was fortunate enough to come up with these incredibly profound and wonderful words. So thank you all, John and Bonnie and everyone out there who blogs or who journals their experience to help others. And in conclusion and closing, we finish with our Croc blessing, as we always do, to wish all of our survivor thrivers not just a cancer journey where you're on a terrifying roller coaster, but rather that you're on one of those rides at the St. Gerard's Fair or a little festival, that little teacup where you sit in the teacup and the teacup kind of goes up and goes down in a very gentle and soft way, or one of those beautiful carousels. So in closing, on behalf of Angel, the board of directors, and myself, we wish you all a very long, healthy, happy, and cancer-free life. God bless you. God be with you. Peace.